Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with forensic accountant Tracy Coenen. She has been working as a forensic accountant for more than 25 years. Her specialty is fraud investigations for those in the process of divorce. She has been investigating fraud for a long time, but she didn't always want to be a forensic accountant. With the dream of one day becoming a prison warden, Tracy went to Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin to get a criminology degree. There was one class that changed the course of her life. We get into all of this and so much more. Enjoy the interview. Tracy, thank you for taking a minute out today.
No worries.
So I want to begin, and I know we kind of talked a little bit before this about COVID, but so COVID didn't affect you at all. It doesn't affect kind of the way that you're living your life now that we're coming out of it. Well, not that the virus is over, but that the world's waking up.
Yeah, I carried on business as usual. My business, unbeknownst to many of my clients, was really conducted primarily from my home. I have an office address. I always have, but about 10 years ago, I stopped going into an office and just started working from home. And so there was nothing different about that for me.
It's pretty clear what you do, but if I took you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day, and one of the kids looks up at you and says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you explain that to them?
I just tell them that I'm a forensic accountant, which means I find money. And I think that's pretty easy for a third grader to understand.
Yeah, I agree, yeah. So when you were in the third grade, what did you want to do when you grew up?
I recall very distinctly in the fourth grade, we had a project where we had to, write about what we wanted to be when we grew up and, make something related to that. And I wanted to be the first woman president of the United States.
Awesome. Well, are you happy with how everything's turned out?
I mean, career-wise, absolutely.
Yeah. Are you in politics at all?
No, I avoid politics. I avoid it at all costs.
I think that's what happens when we're young. We have this idealistic notion, and then as we get older, it just kind of becomes something that it's too much. Yeah, I get it. Talk to me a little bit about your childhood. How did you get these seeds in you that have made you who you are today? How did you get this motivation to get into forensic accounting?
Forensic accounting wasn't something that was talked about when I was a kid, of course, but I did enjoy Encyclopedia Brown books. And there may be some of your listeners who are younger who aren't familiar with Encyclopedia Brown, but he was the boy detective, and there was a series of paperback books in my little small school library when I was a kid, and I really enjoyed those. He would go and do investigations for his friends, silly things like, looking for a lost dog or things like that, and he would find clues, and he had a little notebook that he wrote in, and I loved those books. But I had no idea at that time that would kind of foreshadow what I was going to do, because when I was entering college, I got into a criminology program, and my goal was to become a prison warden. But when I was in the midst of that program, there was an elective that was offered, and it was something that was only offered once every 3 or 4 years. It was a class called Financial Crime Investigation. I took that class. I really, really enjoyed it, and so I took an accounting class to see if I'd be any good at the accounting side, and I was. And that's when my whole outlook changed, and I said, I'm not going to be a prison warden. I'm going to be a financial investigator.
So talk to me a little bit about your first gig. How did you crack into this industry, and what was it like in the very beginning for you?
My first gig was technically as a special agent for the IRS. So the IRS has the typical auditors that everyone thinks of who go over your tax returns, find errors, make you pay more. But there is a division, the criminal investigation division, when we have what I call audits gone bad, where it elevates to a very high level of deception in the reporting or underpaying your taxes. It can become criminal. And that's what the special investigation division does. When I was in school, I did an internship with them, thought that I liked it, and so I took a job with them after I graduated, but really found out that being a government employee wasn't for me. They did the financial investigations that I thought I would enjoy, but all sorts of things that go along with having that job for the government just weren't for me. So I left there. I had already been in the process of seeking an MBA part-time. I just went and did it full-time for 2 semesters and got that MBA, sat for the CPA exam, passed it, and became a traditional financial statement auditor at Arthur Andersen.
So I'm curious, speaking of politics and the government right now, I know that the House just passed a resolution to cut back on the IRS. Would that have been, or would that affect what you're talking about now with people investigating things?
I believe it does impact it, but I think what they're cutting back is there were plans to do some significant hiring, and I think that they're just going to cut back on the new hiring. So not necessarily cut people who are currently working for them.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Yeah, they haven't been clear about that in the media at all. You know, the one thing about your job is, you know, what is it that you look forward to the most? You know, every day we wake up, we have things that we want to do. What is it that motivates you to do your job every day? And how, at the end of the day, do you quantify a good day?
I am self-motivated every day. So I can't say there's a particular aspect that motivates me or, you know, the defeat of evil or something like that. It's not that for me. For me, I enjoy working. I love what I do, and I consider it a privilege to do it every day, so I don't have to, create motivation for myself. I will tell you what makes a good day for me is when I feel like I have accomplished what I needed to accomplish for the day. And so what I mean by that is when I have those days where I have a to-do list with 50 things on it, you can't get them all done. I never feel like there's an ending point to my workday. I never feel like there's a goal, a stopping point. But if I take the things I have to do and make a selection for today, the 5 most important things I have to finish today are these. And I know that when I get through those 5, I can quit my workday. That is a really successful day for me. I work far too much. I work too late into the night on too many days. So those days where I have set myself up to create proper balance and create a proper stopping point, I feel very accomplished.
Who's been a hero for you or a role model for you in your life?
My parents, and I know that sounds so standard, but I don't come from a lot. I come from a lower class family with a dad who worked in a factory and a mom who stayed home with us. But they prioritized education for myself and my brother. And they wanted us to go to a Catholic school, and the financial sacrifice of putting us through that school was very great for them. There was no such thing as a scholarship at that point. It was, if you want to go to the school, you pay the tuition, unless you have some really unusual circumstance, which we didn't have. So Mom and Dad made that a priority, and our entire lives, instilled in us the importance of education, that learning more, and getting your high school diploma and then getting a college degree, if that's what you choose, that would help you advance in life.
If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now, who would you love to meet and talk to?
That is a question I have not thought about. You're completely putting me on the spot on this one.
Well, how about this? What about somebody that left early in life that you would love to talk to that's not around anymore?
My mom. My mom died just over 10 years ago, and she was far too young. And, man, to be able to have 10 or 15 minutes with her would mean the world.
So when you were growing up, you mentioned the books that you read. Were there any other artistic inspirations, music, or any other books, or anything that really moved you, that really made you kind of who you are today?
I was always a little bookworm. I was always studious. I always did well in school. But when I got to the correct age, I got involved in band. I took up playing the flute and played instruments all throughout grade school, high school, college, and beyond. And music has been an outlet for me because my work is so like brain focused, fact focused. So the creativity of music has always been an outlet. So as I, became older in my adulthood, I took more so to listening to music versus playing it. I had some friends who were musicians, and so I try to get to a lot of live music locally. But I also later in life took up playing the violin, and I picked back up with playing the piano, which I hadn't played for probably 20 or 30 years. So music has been important in that regard.
So, in your business you've been doing for 25 years, anytime you're in an industry, you realize things. There's very important things about what you do. What's one of the common things that maybe people don't realize about your job that you discovered early on and you continue to discover that's a part of you being successful at your job?
There is so much to running a business and so much to getting clients and maintaining a stable base of income. It's interesting, after having been in business for myself for 23 years. So I've been doing forensic accounting for more than 25, but I've been in business for myself for about 23 years. And I've certainly gotten a level of success financially and otherwise. And it's interesting to me when I take a vacation somewhere, and I look at that as, in part, a reward for all of my hard work, but also a time to be able to recharge so that I can come back and be great at my work. And there are times when, family or friends might say something like, oh gosh, it must be nice to be able to go on a fancy trip or to be able to take that much time off. I don't think they realize the sacrifice throughout the year, or throughout the current year and throughout past years, right? The cumulative effort that I had to put forth in this business to be able to get to a point where, yes, I am financially successful and able to go on a nice vacation and such.
Everyone out there, has a perception of who you are and what you do, but you're the one that's living your life, your family, your friends, your clients. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm just an honest person who wants to do good work and help people find the money that was stolen from them. I have an expertise to be able to help them, and I want to use that for good in the world. That's how I see myself daily.
So if you have a dream tonight and you run into your 20-year-old version and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom and the roads that you've traveled in your life, what would you tell your young version?
I would say keep doing what you're doing. I don't really live my life with regret saying, gosh, I wish I had done this different or that different. When I started this business 23 years ago, I was not in a good position to start a business. I had no savings. I didn't have a professional network. I didn't have clients that I was taking with me from my previous employer. It was kind of a dumb decision, but also it has turned into be what it is today. And I just ground it out. I got temporary jobs. I got part-time jobs. I did what I had to do to make sure that the rent was paid, even when I didn't have new clients coming in the door. So I would just tell my 20-year-old self, go for it. Whatever your ideas are, go for it and just stick with it.
So let's say you get that dream realized. You lived your life in politics. You campaign and you become the president of this country. And
oh gosh, no, thank you.
Well, right.
No, thank you.
No, we'll let you be a president for a day, and this is the question. So you get in, and all sitting presidents that first kind of time in their presidency, they get to kind of do like a dream thing. What would be a piece of legislation you would love to pass, or what would be an action that you would take that would define your first day as a president?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. I've never even contemplated such a thing. I appreciate your question, but I can't even answer that.
I gotcha. Well, I guess we could turn it into a Coke commercial. If you could make one wish to change the world, what would it be?
Right. I think I would completely wipe out our tax system and start over. Our tax code is just too complicated, so I just think it'd be fun to wipe it out and start over.
I think our government's in the same boat, though. I think there's a lot of things that are very complicated about how we carry on business, and you can see that in long lines at the DMV and things like that. So I think tax code would be a good thing to clean up.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this. Let's go out on a triumphant note, because that wasn't. And I want to know, what's been one of the best client fan letters or responses you've ever gotten for your work?
I think it was a case that I worked actually really early in my career for an elderly woman whose husband had died, and he had been in charge of the money forever. She had never even so much as written a check during their many, many years of marriage. And she was left with, a retirement account, and that was what she was going to live the rest of her life on. And she ended up being swindled out of that money by someone who called himself a family friend, who got her to invest that money into an apartment complex that she thought she owned, but she really only owned half of it because he also put himself on the title. There were a lot of complexities to it, but basically I had to do this investigation to ultimately prove to the court what money of hers went into this and what this man had stolen from her, and help her get that money back. And that was really gratifying, because she was so heartbroken, feeling like her husband left her with this account and she lost all this money, and it's her fault because she didn't know what she was doing. And it was a simple matter of she was conned out of her money. So to be able to help her recover that money, not only so she could, live the rest of her years with some financial security, but also that she could get over that feeling that she had lost what her husband left for her, that was wonderful.
It almost sounds like what you're doing could be a drama series on a major network.
I often think it would make a fun series. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think if someone could pick this up and do a book series that could be adapted to screenplays, I think you're onto something.
Yeah, no kidding.
But Tracy, it took 4 times, but we figured it out. We got it taken care of. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for taking time out. Good luck in 2023. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been a treat talking to you, and best of luck to you in 2023 as well.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, business, literature, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube and Spotify and iTunes. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.